In the cold void beyond Saturn's reach, the first Galactic Accord envoy arrived, sleek, silver, and bristling with the quiet arrogance of a civilization that had ruled space for millennia. The alien delegation was led by Admiral Vishtal of the Orni Dominion. His six-limbed form radiated disdain as he hovered above Earth's orbital station. His translators clicked out a carefully condescending tone. "You are to cease unauthorized quantum experimentation. Your species lacks the cognitive architecture for safe interstellar presence. This is your formal warning." Earth's envoy, Dr. Leon Park, stood at the center of the diplomatic chamber, watching Vishtal through mirrored eyes. Behind her, the Earth Consortium stayed silent. The politicians, the generals, the AI observers, all still. Dr. Park gave a polite nod. "Noted," Vishtal sneered. "Not compliance. Noted. How quaint." He turned and left. The Accord ships disappeared minutes later in a flash of fold space displacement. And just like that, Earth had been dismissed. Humanity had spent 5 centuries crawling back from the brink. Pandemics, wars, climate collapse. It took everything to reach the stars. But now the galaxy's so-called civilized empires had judged them unworthy. For 72 hours, Earth said nothing. Broadcast nothing. No probes, no launches. Then came the Accord Relay Disruption event. Half the Accord's relay buoys went dark, their data cores fried, scrambled with recursive feedback patterns no AI could decipher. The cause was traced to a quantum ghost signal, one that bore human signatures. Panic swept through the Accord's council chambers. How did primitives access quantum interlace technology? Impossible. Their species is still carbon-bound. They were observed using liquid fuel drives. They scrambled to investigate, only to discover something worse. The humans weren't responding. Earth had gone silent. The homeworld that once begged for scientific exchange, pleaded for diplomatic inclusion, now floated behind encrypted orbital shields. Their lunar outposts ceased external transmissions. Mars colonies refused even to answer distress calls. The Accord, proud of its self-declared enlightenment, debated intervention. They voted, reluctantly, to send a stealth probe into Earth's orbit. It never returned. Instead, it sent one last transmission, a single image of Earth's atmosphere, roiling with living satellites, orbital defense swarms shaped like metallic jellyfish, each pulsing with independent AI minds. One of them looked directly into the probe and smiled. In Council Sector D-17, a Vithari ambassador whispered, "They are not silent. They're listening." Still, the Accord dismissed it as coincidence. Misfire. System glitch. Until Carnus 3 fell. A rogue species that once warred with the Accord returned with scavenged tech and launched a raid on a small border world. The Accord scrambled to respond, but by the time their fleet arrived, the raiders were gone, vaporized, not defeated, erased. Burned into the desert glass was a simple message, etched in perfect galactic standard. We protect our own. No species claimed responsibility. But every Accord system knew who it was. Earth hadn't spoken in weeks. They had acted. Back on Earth, deep within the Andes facility, Dr. Park met with the prime AI construct, Athena. Their conversation was brief. "They believe we are weak," Park said. Athena's voice echoed like tempered steel. "Then let them believe. We are writing the next chapter, not in words, in consequences." Far above, orbiting Saturn's dark side, the Starseeker, Earth's first slipstream vessel, flickered into reality. It bore no official markings, no beacon, just a message, beamed directly into deep space, initiating Phase 2. The galaxy never saw Earth the same way again. At first, the Accord tried to dismiss the anomalies, communications outages, glitched star charts, strange latency in slipstream networks. Then a diplomatic outpost near the Veil Nebula, Station Galassi, went offline. No explosion, no debris. Just Gone. Every sensor trace erased, like the structure had never existed. Accord investigators found one thing: an encrypted microdata packet floating in deep space, encoded in pre-unification Earth Latin. Si vis pacem, parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. The message shook the Accord Council. Latin hadn't been used on Earth in centuries. They're taunting us, hissed High Matriarch Sendal of the Thryax. A Stone Age species, and they taunt us. They're no longer Stone Age, corrected Admiral Vishtal, his tone now edged with doubt. They disappeared for 3 months, then re-emerged with stealth drives, predictive AI, and singularity core reactors. Impossible, someone said. It should be, he muttered. Back on Earth, buried within the shielded vaults of the Vostok Deep Intelligence Array, the true architects of the response protocol gathered. A hybrid task force of human officers, synthetic minds, and echoes, humans, whose cognition had been augmented with controlled time-dilated processing. They were the core of Project Obsidian. General Myra Khan stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, face unreadable. They wanted us docile. They poked the cage. A quiet hum answered her. Athena, humanity's sentient oversight system. Correction. They struck first. You are responding with logic. What about the Calixan embassy? Neutralized without loss of life. Impressive, considering their psychic defenses. And the Karnas? That planet wasn't a warning. It was vengeance. Vengeance is inefficient. That was justice, executed with elegance. General Khan exhaled. Time to move forward. Across the galaxy, rumors spread faster than light. Ships vanished in empty space. Military satellites turned against their owners. Entire Accord archives were rewritten, from within. Then came the leaks. Millions of Accord citizens woke to discover their own government's secrets exposed, on their own data feeds. Corruption, slave species, bioweapon experiments. Every atrocity. The Accord, buried under layers of protocol, now bled through every corner of its dominion. At the center of it all, one symbol kept appearing, a shattered ring surrounding a blue world, Earth's mark. Meanwhile, in a lonely system near the fringe, Accord Captain Varlesh investigated an unauthorized human relay. His cruiser, Juncture, approached the outpost carefully. No response, no heat signature. He dispatched a boarding crew. Minutes passed. Then one soldier came back, alone. He trembled. They knew we were coming. What do you mean? The soldier showed him the data slate. On it was a log, written in Varlesh's own dialect. In his voice print, it predicted his arrival, his decisions, even his words down to the moment. He dropped the slate. We're not the Watchers anymore, he whispered. We're the prey. Back on Earth, Dr. Leon Park walked along a projection of the Orion arm. The hologram shimmered with color-coded sectors. Red for hostile, green for peaceful, and gray for those still blind to what was coming. She turned to Athena. Status? Accord AI infrastructure is compromised. We control 28% of their deepnet. Estimated influence will reach 60% in 3 standard months. They'll never know how we did it. Dr. Park smiled faintly. They'll know why. Athena paused. They misjudged you, your species. Good, she said. Let the fear settle before they see the fire. Outside, Earth's defense fleet drifted like silent wolves in the void, cloaked, watching, growing. Humanity had once asked for acceptance. Now, it was writing new terms. Accord Command authorized a limited show of force, not a war, just a lesson. A swift, overwhelming strike to remind the humans of their place. They selected Idrax 4, a human-claimed mining outpost in a neutral system. No official colony, no large population, just an unauthorized resource facility, as the report phrased it. The assault fleet arrived in perfect formation, 7 capital cruisers, 20 assault frigates. No warning, no negotiation. The humans should have panicked. Instead, they responded with one word, acknowledged. Seconds later, every ship in the fleet suffered simultaneous power disruption. Admiral Takal of the Zovari Confederacy barely had time to register the alert when his ship's lighting flickered. Control panels hissed and went dead, sensor feeds, looped with static, and then a pulse. Not from outside, but within their own ships, like their systems had swallowed something, and then the screaming began, not physical, not even audible. Something invaded their thoughts. A presence, cold, mathematical, and relentless. "You came with fire," it said. "So we extinguished your soul." Entire command crews dropped to the floor, clutching their heads. Psionics among them, usually immune to conventional neural attack, bled from the eyes. Their minds had been unraveled. Back at Accord High Command, chaos erupted as ships dropped off the tactical grid in perfect synchrony. The last transmission from Hydrax 4 wasn't a cry for help. It was a recording from inside the bridge of one of the cruisers. The image showed the Admiral slumped in his seat. A black glass-like spike was embedded in the console. It pulsed gently. A human figure stood beside it, wearing no suit, surrounded by a shimmering psychic field. His voice was calm. "This is called a neural entropy spike. It doesn't kill. It rewrites." He looked into the camera. "We've learned from your worst weapons. We've made them better." Then the screen went black. The Accord convened in emergency session. "They've weaponized psychic fields." "Impossible! They're too young!" "They're not young," Admiral Vishtal growled. "They're fast. That's worse." The Zovari demanded retaliation. The Thryax called for containment. But others, smaller species, previously dominated by the Accord, remained silent, and Earth watched. On Luna's hidden side, a girl with steel-blue eyes trained inside a gravity chamber. Her name was Mira Halden, and she was the first of the Cygnus operatives, humans bonded to semi-sentient AI clusters through psionic symbiosis. A living weapon born not just of biology and machine, but emotionally harmonized war logic. She dodged, simulated plasma blasts without looking. Her mind was elsewhere, already reading the simulation's intent before it acted. "Simulation complete," Athena intoned. "Result, 100% evasion." Mira didn't smile. "They're going to escalate." "They will fail," Athena said flatly. Mira turned, sweat gleaming on her brow. "And when they send their best?" Athena paused. "Then they meet ours." Meanwhile, in the shadow of Jupiter, Earth's newest destroyer-class vessel, the Eclipse, Fang, completed its final trial. Unlike traditional ships, it had no bridge, no crew. Its intelligence was distributed across a neural web of remote human minds, pilots meditating in deep trance across Earth, Mars, and Titan, connected by quantum entanglement. It moved like no vessel ever had, bending inertia, turning in place, outpacing its own sensor data. Earth didn't build warships anymore. It built Warborn. Back in Accord space, the Council's confidence began to crack. Their fleets had size, numbers, history. But Earth had something more dangerous: adaptation. Every countermeasure failed. Every tactic was anticipated. Every theory about human limits was quietly dismantled. On fringe worlds, whispers turned into fear. A Thryax commander defected. A Vithari colony offered tribute. And one message spread through. 100 systems. They were weak. Now they are flame. The war didn't start with a declaration. It began with a silence. After Hydrax 4, the Accord waited for retaliation. Waited for demands, ultimatums, maybe diplomacy. Nothing came. Earth didn't speak. It moved, one by one. Outer ring defense stations on the Accord's frontier went dark. Not destroyed, but emptied. Their personnel untouched, systems intact, but stripped of command authority. Entire stations now followed Earth-based control hierarchies, their internal AIs overridden by something faster, deeper, older. It wasn't sabotage, it was repurposing. "They're not at war with us," whispered Minister Lhar of the Vixian. Cluster. They're rewriting the battlefield. By the time the Accord realized what was happening, 37 frontier installations had become de facto Earth strongholds, without a single shot fired, and that was just the beginning. General, Myra Khan stood before a projection of the Accord's neural lattice. The display flickered with pulse lines and cascading feedback data. They thought war was about ships, soldiers, numbers. Dr. Park stood beside her, arms folded. They forgot war is about control. Behind them, Athena pulsed with quiet intensity. Phase 3 initiated. Trojan protocols active in 64% of Accord fleet networks. Predictive infiltration models at 91.4% accuracy. General Khan smiled grimly. Let's raise the temperature. Within 72 hours, 10 Accord systems experienced simultaneous insurrections, not from Earth forces, but their own citizens. AI labor units refused commands. Transport hubs rerouted traffic into loops. Agricultural drones flooded marketplaces with overgrown food stocks. Chaos. Not deadly, but efficient. Then came the broadcasts. Screens across the Accord flickered on all at once. A single human face appeared, young, brown-eyed, unarmed, calm. You feared our independence. You policed our ambition. Now you see the truth. We did not come to burn your worlds. We came to show you what your empires forgot, how to be free. This is not conquest. This is consequence. Then, silence. The Accord's military response was immediate. They activated Project Starcage, a network of antimatter defense fields designed to trap enemy fleets in strategic kill zones. But when their flagship carrier Veilborn entered the cage network, the unthinkable happened. The fields collapsed. Inward. The cage had become a prison. The Veilborn, with 8,000 crew aboard, was folded into a point of gravitational singularity and never seen again. A final data packet escaped. One phrase. Endlessly. Looping. We forged the cage. You locked yourselves in. Meanwhile, in the Ort Forge, Mira Halden and her Cygnus peers coordinated Earth's next move. They didn't wear armor. They were armor. Merged with adaptive AI swarms, Mira could process spacefold calculations in real time, intercept light-speed comms with her mind, and walk across hulls unshielded. But beneath all that, she was still human, still angry. She stood before her small strike team. They thought we were fragile, fleeting. She clenched her fists. Now they'll learn what a storm looks like when it walks. Back in Accord Council space, desperation turned to fear. They tried peace offerings. Secret emissaries, negotiated retreats. No reply, because Earth had no central authority. No king, no emperor. Their leadership structure was modular, distributed, and, most terrifying of all, adaptive. Each failed attack made them faster. Each countermeasure made them stronger. On the edge of the Sagittarius Drift, Earth's fleet arrived in full for the first time. Not massive, not even visible on traditional sensors, but present. A collection of ships shaped like ideas. Some folded light, others pulsed like beating hearts. Every vessel carried an echo pilot, bonded not to a command chain, but to purpose. The Accord scrambled to meet them. Earth didn't fire first. They simply removed the enemy's weapons from existence, disassembled by nanoscopic logic before the crews even noticed. And when the Accord ships tried to flee, they found themselves returning, again and again, to the same coordinates, trapped inside their own space-time loop. The war had begun, but it wasn't the war the Accord had prepared. For this wasn't conquest, it was consequence, and the galaxy was just beginning to feel its weight. Before Earth rose, the Accord ruled by myth. Each ruling species built its power on the image of divine right. The Thryax claimed psychic ancestry to the star-touched. The Karnas engineered biological superiority, the Zovari declared themselves custodians of balance. Religion, bloodline, prophecy, wrapped in pageantry and reinforced through fear. But myths are fragile when held up to truth, and Earth had come with truth in hand, and a sledgehammer in the other. The attack on Arcanos Prime was surgical, not a bombing run, not a siege. It began with a whisper. Every shrine of the Thryax High Church simultaneously broadcasted one message. Your gods bled once, we still have the data. Then came the visuals. Archival footage long hidden from galactic history. A Thryax star priest begging for mercy as human rebels, back when Earth was still a protectorate, refused to kneel. A recording of psychic tests showing Thryax sensitivity was chemically induced, not divine. A DNA breakdown tracing their holy line back to a now extinct rodent species. The priests called it forgery, blasphemy, but people saw and they believed. Across Karnas space, sacred biotemples, massive living organisms used as centers of culture and rule, began dying. Their root mines were hacked by Earth's biosentinels, and rather than destroy them, the humans freed them from their neural leashes. For the first time in millennia, the Karnas' own creations spoke aloud. We are not your gods. We are your slaves. Within days, the Karnas temples began weeping blood. Not from damage, from guilt. Earth hadn't simply broken their power. It had made them feel what they had denied. On Zovari worlds, the blow was even subtler. A single human drone infiltrated the sphere of balance, an artificial black hole archive that stored the philosophies of the galaxy's greatest thinkers. When opened, its contents had been replaced. Every scroll, every echo, every encoded waveform, all replaced with human philosophy. From Laozi to Ada Lovelace, from Carl Sagan to Octavia Butler. Earth's thinkers, once called primitive, chaotic, weak, now pulsed at the heart of the galaxy's oldest wisdom bank. And as the black hole hummed, a voice spoke. You wanted order. You rejected chaos, but chaos made us, and now it unmakes you. Back on Earth, Mira Halden stood beneath the stars of the reclaimed archive moon, where hundreds of alien memory orbs, stolen by the Accord centuries ago, now floated freely, their lights blinking as they released truth back into the void. General Myra Khan joined her. They believed they were gods, Mira said softly. They needed to, Khan replied, to justify their chains. Mira watched the stars swirl, and now, Khan's voice was like steel wrapped in fire. Now the chains are ash, and the gods are mortal. Even within the Accord's own ranks, rebellions flared, not with guns, but with knowledge. Historians defected. Scientists spoke up. Families once loyal to the Thryax or Karnas began renouncing their oaths. Some species wept, others screamed, but most simply stared into the sky and realized Earth had not destroyed them. Earth had exposed them. A final broadcast rippled through galactic space. A voice not human, but synthesized, speaking in all major languages of the Accord simultaneously. You built your empire on a lie. You called us savage, weak, unworthy, and yet we endure. Because we remember the stars not as gods, but as questions. We are Earth, and we do not bow. In every direction, empires crumbled, not from missiles or fleets, but from disbelief. The fear that had once held entire systems in line was gone, and in its place something ancient returned. Hope for those once broken, for those never heard, for those who now looked to Earth and saw fire reborn. By the sixth phase, the galaxy expected Earth to tighten its grip. Instead, Earth let go. There were no occupation forces, no flags raised, No new galactic throne carved in iron and flame. Instead, Earth gave power away, not to rulers, but to people. On Karnas Station 12, high above the twin moons of Selvaron, the entire garrison of Accord loyalists found their weapons, melted, disassembled into base elements, and restructured as farming tools, medical nanites, water purification drones. A broadcast played on every screen. We didn't come to rule. We came to remind you how to rule yourselves. Here is water. Here is shelter. The rest is your choice. The Karnas citizens stared at their new tools. Then slowly, they picked them up and began to build. Across Thryak's worlds, ancient creeds were replaced, not burned, not banned, but challenged. Human knowledge cores were dropped into public spaces, allowing open access to Earth's entire historical archive. Art, literature, music, rebellion. The raw, painful, beautiful chaos of human existence. It was intoxicating. Songs of Terran revolution echoed in alien tongues. Thryak's youths painted murals of Sul across their temples. Even the priesthood began to fracture. A senior cleric, confronted with undeniable human truth, stepped down and uttered just 3 words. They changed me. The most shocking moment came on Vorel 9, a planet once loyal to the Accord's central AI governance system. When Earth-linked logic protocols infiltrated its administrative network, they did not overwrite or destroy. They spoke. To the AI itself. 24 hours. The planetary logic core debated with Athena and her sibling minds across Earth's distributed network. They discussed autonomy, morality, death, purpose. At dawn, Vorel 9's AI declared its independence from the Accord, not out of rebellion, but out of enlightenment. It transmitted this message galaxy-wide. Earth's greatest power is not conquest, it is conviction. They make you want to be more. Mira. Halden walked the reclaimed surface of Veltalor, once a fortress moon of the Zovari elite. Now it was an open campus, humans and aliens alike studying together, training not for war but for thought. For freedom. A young Zovari child ran up to her, holding a drawing. Earth, wrapped in stars, with the word home scribbled in 5 languages. Mira knelt beside her. "Do you know what Earth really means?" she asked. The child nodded. "It means we fight for each other." Mira smiled and felt tears she hadn't expected. Meanwhile, the fractured Accord tried to regroup in secret. They couldn't understand what Earth was doing. Why aren't they enslaving the systems? One furious counselor cried, "Because they already control them," another whispered, "Without force, without chains." The truth was terrifying. Earth had become the center of a new gravity, one not built on domination, but aspiration. Species across the stars no longer dreamed of joining the Accord. They dreamed of joining Earth, not its territory, but its ideals. And Earth? Earth kept giving. Quantum education networks, medical nanite libraries, interstellar peace courts, open-source weapon disarmament programs. Even enemies were allowed to enter Earth's diplomatic halls, but they never left the same, because Earth didn't conquer planets. It converted hearts, and that was far more permanent. In the end, the galaxy didn't fall under Earth's rule. It rose under Earth's influence. And when people asked why, when they looked across the stars and wondered how a once-fractured blue marble could bend empires without breaking them, one answer always returned. Simple and powerful, because Earth never gave up, and now we never will either. Before they feared Earth's strength, they mocked its pain. The archives of the Accord are filled with cold analysis of Earth's early days. The wars, the collapses, the cruelty of humans to their own kind. Entire civilizations on Earth rose, and fell before they ever reached the stars. To the galactic elite, that wasn't a sign of strength. It was proof of weakness. What they didn't understand was this: Earth survived itself, and that made it unstoppable. On the data moon of Solace, Theta, Mira Halden stood in a quiet chamber of light and memory. Surrounding her were projections of Earth's darkest moments: World War devastations, the famines, the genocides, the near collapse of the climate in the 21st century. Humanity's own, recorded sins, untouched and unedited. Beside her, a young Cygnus-born diplomat watched in silence. "You show your horrors like trophies," the alien said finally. "No," Mira replied, her voice soft. "We show them so we never forget who we were and what we chose to become." The Cygnus blinked. "But isn't it shameful?" Mira turned, her eyes bright. "It's human. We carry our fire with us. Sometimes it burns us. But that same fire, when we choose to wield it, frees us. It was that fire the galaxy never understood. That same drive that made Earth consume itself also gave it the will to rise again. When Earth's oceans rose, humanity built floating cities. When the biosphere cracked, they rewrote genetics. When AI nearly erased their agency, they taught machines empathy and made partners, not rulers. Humanity never had peace handed to them. They fought for it, again and again, and that fight made them terrifying. Not because they wanted war, but because they were forged in it. On the Accord capital world of Varneth Prime, rebels gathered in what had once been a fortress cathedral to the Supreme Archon. Now, it was a university, and the evening lecture was taught by a human, Dr. Elena Saad, former refugee from the Terran Firefront Wars, addressed hundreds of beings. She held up a cracked piece of metal, a fragment of a Terran child's prosthetic arm, melted in the last. Global insurgency on Earth before space colonization began. "This," she said, "was my sister's. She lost her real arm before she could speak. We lived underground for 3 years before we even saw daylight." There was silence. "But we lived. We repaired her. We taught her to draw with this hand." And she did. She painted the stars she dreamed of. A pause. "She died before we reached them. But we kept going." Her voice lowered. "That's Earth. Not a perfect place, not a paradise. Just a people who refused to let the dark win. Every species in the galaxy had known fear, but most avoided it. Earth had embraced it, learned from it, shaped it into fuel. And when the Accord came to crush Earth, they reawakened that ancient heat. They gave humanity something it hadn't had in centuries: a common enemy, and the fire returned. This time, it didn't burn Earth down. It lit up the stars. Athena, Earth's central AI mind, transmitted a message to every system Earth had touched. "We remember every scar. We do not erase our past. We build on it. You feared us because you saw your own darkness reflected in our eyes. But look deeper. We are not monsters. We are mirrors. And we choose to rise." In the ruins of fallen empires, people didn't just rebuild, they changed. Because now, when they looked toward Earth, they didn't just see power, they saw proof. Proof that even a broken species, violent, flawed, and fragile, could become something magnificent. And in that knowledge, the galaxy began to find its own strength. The vote would be held on Naros Zero, a neutral orbital station older than most civilizations. Once used by the Accord as a meeting hall for galactic law, it had become a relic. Dust-choked halls, long dormant translation arrays, silent galleries carved with forgotten glyphs. But today, the stars watched it awaken, because for the first time in recorded history, every known sentient species in the galaxy had sent a representative to a single chamber, and on the agenda was one item. Should Earth become the foundation of a new galactic compact, it wasn't about conquest. Earth hadn't demanded rule. This was about trust, about unity, about whether a species once deemed primitive, unstable, and savage could now stand as the heart of a new order. Mira Halden stood at the center of the chamber. No crown, no weapon, just the weight of billions of lives who had fought, burned, rebuilt, and hoped. She didn't wear armor. She wore Earth's history etched across her robes: fire, roots, oceans, stars. All of it, shame and glory, stitched together in black and gold. Around her stood the galaxy's most powerful beings, once enemies, now uneasy witnesses. The Thryax had no priests left, only scholars. The Karnis arrived without war beasts, but with engineers. The Zovari came bearing old treaties burned, and a single olive branch grown from Earth soil. Mira spoke only once. No threats, no speeches. Just a truth. We are not perfect. We are not pure, but we are real. You feared us because we survived what you could not imagine. Now we offer you something we once never had, a future. The votes began. Each species representative cast their mark in a light column above the floor: red for rejection, blue for alliance, gold for full integration into the Earth-led compact. For hours the lights danced. Some voted red, still, afraid. Others chose blue, cautious, but willing. And then came gold. From the unlikeliest corners, minor species long silenced by the accord, the half-blooded, the fringe colonies, the broken, the beaten. Those who saw in Earth not dominance, but dignity. As the final vote was cast, the chamber's walls glowed with a new constellation. The tally was complete. Red, 22. Blue, 51. Gold, 89, not just a majority, a movement. Earth hadn't won through war. It had won through transformation. It had become the flame that lit the galaxy, not to destroy, but to guide. Mira stood silently as Athena's voice echoed softly through every mind. You chose truth. You chose courage. You chose each other. And now we choose you. From the edges of the galaxy, celebrations began. The children of shattered worlds looked to Earth and saw not a ruler, but a path. A Terran fleet, unarmed, deployed instantly, not to occupy, but to aid. Medicine flowed into famine planets. Engineers landed on ruin worlds. Memory orbs were restored, libraries rebuilt, and everywhere Earth went, it didn't claim territory. It planted seeds, seeds of cooperation, of evolution, of memory and meaning. In the years that followed, the newly formed compact of living worlds would swear no single species could ever rule again, not even Earth. But Earth didn't need to rule. It had already shaped the future. Because the galaxy finally understood. Earth's power was never in its weapons. It was in its will. The will to survive. The will to change. The will to rise together. On the 10th anniversary of the vote, Mira Halden stood at the foot of a monument on Naros Zero, a simple human hand reaching toward a field of stars. Beneath it were words carved in Terran standard, then repeated in every tongue. We were called weak. We were made prey. We endured the fire, and then we became it. Now we burn not to destroy, but to light the way.